search MyRacePass. All of our webinars will be on MyRacePass, or all of our webinars will be on our YouTube account, including this one. So check that out. To refresh your memory moving forward, or if you get a new score or whatever else, you can send them there as well. We're going to cover some ground here in this one. We're going to kind of configure a season and our season management screen with a focus on sanctioned classes, and specifically the IMCA sanctioned classes here today. I'm going to create a schedule and add events to the schedule with that same focus on adding IMCA classes and series and what that looks like. We're going to talk about MRP Fantasy and fantasy prizes, how to add those prizes and what you can do with those. And then also, we're going to cap it off at the end by doing the integration with MRP Live and Westhold or Race Manager. If you are an Orbits track, you want to know more about the Orbit stuff. In previous webinars, I've covered Orbit stuff. I'm actually the previous one tonight. So when that gets up on our YouTube page, just check that out. The March 10 early webinar, and it'll have all of our Orbits information there. So I'm going to jump in here, guys. I'm going to jump right in with our IMCA lineups. So the first thing I'll do is share my screen here. Let's see. There we go. And you should now be able to see this winter season, 2021 winter season on your favorite track. I use your favorite track because it's a demo environment. It's for us, basically, we log into this demo environment. This is our demo environment here at MyRacePass. All of you guys also have your own demo environments. We call it the sandbox. If you go to your dashboard page, which I'll show you here, all of the racetracks have it. All the series have it. You go down to Open Sandbox here at the bottom. That is a demo environment that you guys can work in, basically, so you can test lineups or event formats or whatever you want to test and have it not affect the live environment data. But because your favorite track isn't a real place and it's only available to us here at MyRacePass, I can use the live environment version of it to get through all this stuff. So the first thing that I want to show you here is season management, and basically I'm going to go through some of the changes to the IMCA lineups here this year. So I'm going to go to settings and lineup settings just to show you this. If I do a search for IMCA, you're going to see there's a lot of stuff that comes up for a feature. You guys probably know IMCA changed their lineup procedures and their lineup rules this year. For that reason, we've updated our records to reflect that. You've gotten emails regarding it from me. This is my chance to kind of show you that in the lineup settings. So there's going to be IMCA opening night feature, and there's going to be pre-IMCA. So you'll see opening night and point average, and you'll see pre-2021. Anything labeled pre-2021 is old. So don't feel like you can rely on that. So if I get down into the heat race stuff, there's your IMCA pill draw, your 2021 IMCA point average, but then there's also pre-IMCA 2021 point average. So if you're looking for the old stuff, it still exists. The old stuff still exists, but you want to make sure you're using the correct one. I mean, it'll either say 2021 or it'll say, just IMCA pill draw. Anything with the pre-moniker out in front is going to be old. You're going to want to steer clear of that stuff. It's not going to be relevant anymore. The pill draw stuff obviously hasn't changed. Still just doing it based off of pill draw. That's why there's no 2021 moniker. But again, the point average stuff has changed. So we've got 2021 point average, and we've got pre-2021 point average. Use the current updated stuff for your IMCA lineups. So I really wanted to touch on that here specifically for the IMCA group, just so you guys are aware that, yes, your procedures have changed. We've also made updates, so you guys are still set, ready to go. Opening night and today, that stuff is included and all in there, and you're ready to go. I'm going to jump over to season management here. Jump right into season management. Now, I'm not going to create a new season because you can see that I'm already 3 years into the future or 2 years into the future. So if I get going too far into the future, we're going to be driving different kinds of cars. But I'll show you the process of creating a new season. Pretty simple. You come down to the season list. You click new season. You obviously won't be able to create a season that is duplicate of a season that you already have. So for me, it's trying to push me out to 2024. You guys will be 2021 if you haven't created a season yet. It's already March. So most of you probably have, but if you haven't yet, that's how you do it. 2021 right here. You don't have to type 2021 into this box. It'll duplicate it. You can just leave it as, whatever your racetrack season is. The start date and end date, usually we leave the full length of the year. That way, if you have practice nights before your regular season or banquets after your regular season or something like that, it can still be all included in the same year's season 2021. And you press add. I'm not going to press add because I'm already too far into the future. But when you press add, it will take you to this screen, to configuration. It'll allow you to configure your season. So you have the option, you can see the year, you can't change it, but you have the option to change those dates or the name if you'd like. If you're a race track, the name of your track will be listed here by default, obviously. And you'll have the option to add series and classes. And if you're a series, the name of your series will be right here by default. And you'll have the option to add classes. More than likely, it's just one class of your series, or it could be multiple. I've seen multiple as well. Or all the tracks that you're going to. We're going to look at this from the lens of a race track. So this is our track, and I'll show you kind of how to add classes and add series. So if we're adding a series, come right down here, click the green Add Series button. The first thing you'll see is this My Series screen, which is basically just a list of the series that have been added to your racetrack in the past. So if you're running the same thing again, easy to go back and find the same thing. If you are running a different new series, something you've never run before, you come down here, click this More Series option. Again, My Series is the default view. Season Series splits that out even more, so you can go back through the seasons and find what series you might want to run based off of that. And then also, you can just do all series, and all series will just take you to a search window. So if you're running, an IMCA series, if I can type, there's the Dirt Nights Tour, or any other series that might exist with, the Nebraska 360 Sprint Series in Nebraska. Sprint Series in Nebraska, I know is a Race Saver series. Basically, anything that's ever been listed as a series will be right here. And if you can't find what you're looking for, reach out to us, and we'll get it created for you or point you in the right direction to where it exists or what name it exists under. So that's how you can add a series. We're going to leave this just as the generic, your favorite series, because I don't want to have the potential to add any real data in. When you do add a series, though, I will show you this here, actually. Sprint Series in Nebraska. So if I do add a series in here, I go and add, it'll tell me, okay, this is a poor example because they actually don't have a class listed. So let me try this a second time. Hey, Dirt Nights Tour, we'll go ahead and add the Dirt Nights Tour. There was a pop-up that says it requires the IMCA Modified class. There's the IMCA Modifieds. So when you do add a series, it will automatically add the class associated with that series for you, so you don't accidentally add a series and not have a class associated with it. In terms of adding classes, there's a couple of ways to do that. First, it'll show up exactly like the series with the My Classes list, so all the classes that you've run at your racetrack in the past. I'm assuming most of your class lists won't be this long, but it gives you an idea of how easy it is to go back and add the same things. If you're adding more classes, a lot of these things will be the same here for you. My Classes is the default view. Season classes, you can go back to previous seasons to pick out classes. There's all classes, but the one that I want to focus on is Sanctioned classes. Okay, if you go to all classes here first, and I'll just kind of show you this really quickly here. You go to all classes. It's a list of all of the different class types that could possibly exist. So if I go to stock cars, for instance, there's all of the different stock cars that we've got in the program that can be filed under stock car, from pony stocks to sportsmen's to asphalt to everything that could be a stock car. If you're an IMCA track, and this is also true for the other sanctionings, Crate Racing USA, Westhold, whatever else, other things we've got in the program, but if you go to sanctioned classes, and we're going to focus on the IMCA classes here, I'll click IMCA. This IMCA sanctioned class list is important because IMCA will have the ability to approve that this is in fact an IMCA show, basically. And so if you use their sanctioned classes, it will make it very easy for them to say yes or no, this is supposed to be IMCA sanctioned, or it's not. They'll get that notification. They'll be able to manage, suspensions and licensing and all those sorts of things. And it'll make it a lot easier for everybody involved to know that it's not just a stock car, it's an IMCA stock car. You want to make sure you pick that sanctioned class. So for this purpose, I'll just add it in the IMCA stock car, the sanctioned class, different than a regular stock car. Again, super important with sanctioning, just to kind of make sure everybody's on the same page and organized the right way. So that's the process of adding IMCA series, IMCA classes to your configuration. It's important because when you go to events and you go to add an event to your schedule, the I'll just go right here, April 1st. The series or the classes that you've got in your season management screen are the classes that you have to choose from when adding an event. So you can, select your IMCA classes, all of them right away. And actually the classes that you select and the times that you select down here are what's known as sticky. And this isn't a full training of season management. I did that in a different webinar. I'll just kind of get through this point. I'm not going to do the full training though. But that means basically when you select those times and you select those classes, you can pick as many dates as you want from that calendar screen that I was on, and basically pick all the classes, pick all the times. When you add the event, it'll bring you automatically to the next event, and it'll remember what you picked for times and classes, so you don't have to re-enter it. Then you can edit it, but you don't have to re-enter it. Makes adding an entire schedule of events pretty fast and pretty easy for you guys. I will discard that event for the time being. But that's basically the process of, making sure you've got the correct IMCA classes, the correct series, the classes associated with that series, and adding that to your track schedule. Now, if I'm coming here, editing an event right here, if you want to add a series to your schedule, you notice during that process there wasn't actually a series, you're just picking the classes. If you're adding a series to that schedule, you just add the series. Again, the season management screen, that configuration page, these are the series that you're going to have to choose from by default. So you want to make sure you've got those added in configuration before you go to add it to your events. You can easily just add the series right there. Perfect. Again, I'm getting this error because I don't have IMCA modifieds added to this event, and that's the class that goes with that series. But if I continue, it'll add them both for me. The IMCA modifieds, the Dirt Nights Tour, all of those things. So pretty fast, pretty simple way to make sure that you've got the correct sanctioning selected when you're adding your season and adding your events and things of that nature. Before we move on to talking about fantasy or fantasy prizes or anything in that line, if anybody has any questions, make sure you put them in that messaging box. And for the time being, just for right now, just for that block of items, if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and shout them out right now, and we can try to answer those before we move on. Okay, I'll move on then. If you do find later on, tonight, tomorrow, whatever else, when you're trying to set this up, if you do, remember something or say, hey, I actually had a question about this, shoot me an email, austin.lloyd@myracepass.com, or you can fire it under the support box too, which, a couple of us will look at it. You'll have more eyeballs on it that way. If you go to support@myracepass.com, fire your questions off there. We'll be happy to help. I'm going to jump forward then. Going to jump into something that we're definitely all very excited about here. It's fantasy. We released fantasy in the beginning stages of last year. We've made a lot of updates and changes to it pretty rapidly. We think it's going to help everybody in a lot of ways. First, fans are going to be excited. They're going to be more involved in the process of running going through the event. They're going to pay more close attention to what's going on at each individual event, which will put more fans' eyeballs on the things that you guys are doing at the racetrack. For a racetrack perspective, gives you an opportunity to open up a line of advertising, maybe make some different revenue streams for yourself based on what you give away as prizes and what you name your fantasy seasons and things of that nature. And really, it's just a whole lot of fun. I mean, we're making this even more fun for everybody involved as well. There's images of drivers out on Twitter campaigning for themselves in fantasy. Now, they don't get anything out of it. They just think the idea of somebody picking them is cool. So if we're giving a driver another reason to put your event on social media, regardless of what that reason is, it's marquee drivers posting your racetrack page, your event pages, all of those things on social media for more fans to see. And that's just a good thing for everybody. So we're excited about fantasy. I'll show you a couple of these things, and I'll kind of take you through a couple of these things. I'm going to switch to a more current season where we've got some fantasy groups and fantasy prizes already. In fantasy, for every season that you have, which you can have multiple seasons into the same schedule. I mean, you can have multiple, basically from calculating multiple points groups or points championships in the same year. But for every season that you have available, for every class that's running in that season, the MyRacePass will automatically generate a fantasy leaderboard or a championship for fans in conjunction with that season. So you're running 5 classes every week. You're running 18 events. There's going to be 5 different class champions after 18 events. Basically, think of it as their own point season. And then there's going to be 1 overall winner as well. But then for each one of your events, each class will have its own nightly winner or nightly leaderboard, so you can have nightly prizes as well. A lot of different ways to do that. I want to kind of show you some of these things here. I will say, if you're going to set up prizes for nightly events, you want to make sure you set up your leaderboard in advance, because the leaderboard won't automatically be generated until the race night, actually, until, you know, picks start coming in. And for that reason, it makes it really difficult to add prizes. So if you're going to add prizes on a nightly basis, create your own leaderboards. And this is basically how you do it. We'll add a leaderboard here. You can title it whatever you'd like. The title shows up in the app. So this is where it's important, you know, because you could open up a stream of revenue that way just by saying, hey, why don't you be the title sponsor of our fantasy season? Fans will see it in the app. It'll be there in the app. It'll also be on your profile on MyRacePass.com. So somebody goes to MyRacePass.com, searches for your track. Your fantasy profile, or your profile, will show your fantasy standings, your fantasy leaderboards, including if you put a title sponsor in here. Subtitle here, you can put in your own custom subtitle as more of a descriptor, but it will also, you can see, it will default to the selected schedule name if nothing is specified. So that's a good thing to keep in mind as well. You can select a schedule or date range. You can see by default my 2021 season is selected, or you can do a custom date range. So if you've got a 3-day show over a weekend, you can create your own fantasy leaderboards in advance just for those 3 days or something like that. For us, you know, we'll just do one night, whatever that one night is. We'll just make up a night. It's right there. For all classes combined, for one class, whatever you'd like to do that way, we'll add it here. You have to have a subtitle. Custom fantasy season, perfect. Okay, so we've got it here. It's active by default. That means on race night, as soon as your entries start coming in, as soon as you got all your entries checked in and you create your first lineup of the night, fans can start making picks. Basically, that's what triggers the ability for fans to make picks. You create your first lineup, fans can make picks. We're going to add a prize here. Adding prizes, fairly simple. You can add a prize for one position, or if you have multiple prizes, you can add prizes for multiple positions, or you can double up and add multiple prizes for one position. Really, whatever you like to do there. When I saw this, I'll tell you my initial idea was, you know, at the track that I'm at, we have lucky number programs. Buy a program, get a lucky number inside of it, and sponsors give away merchandise in those lucky number programs, t-shirts, hats, whatever. I will tell you, as an announcer, it's the least fun part of being an announcer, is reading off 4 numbers in a row 100 times throughout the course of a night and hoping maybe somebody will go claim that prize potentially, or you have a box of stuff left over. In this case, you can actually put some skin in the game for the fan, right? Like if they're bought MRP Fantasy and they're playing, they're going to pay attention to what place they're in. They're going to pay attention if there's a prize for that place or not. It'll tell them right in the app if they've won. So it's, you know, I think it would be a cool idea to start giving away that merchandise. You know, Bob's Garage Fantasy Championship, you know, the top 5 spots get 50% off for an oil change at Bob's Garage or whatever, you know, something like that. Free transmission fluid, I don't know, whatever you want to do. So that's a cool way to do that. So you can give it to whatever position you want. If you want to give 10th place the prize and nobody else, that's fine too. There's a prize type here. This isn't really a required, I mean, it is a required field. You have to have something in here. But this isn't publicly displayed anywhere is the wording I'm trying to find. But it is important for us, for research and tracking purposes, because we want to know what kind of prizes are being given away, and we want to know how that correlates to attendance, to basically people playing. So, you know, we're going to pay attention to that. So if you've got a prize type that fits into one of these buckets, you know, basically select one of those buckets. Title it whatever you want your fans to see that it's being titled. You can throw in a description if you feel like a description is necessary here, and the estimated monetary value of the prize. and you'll be able to add that prize. So I'll go through this here. How much should the oil change cost? $25. We'll say that. All right. Add. Perfect. 10th place gets a free oil change for the 327 event, basically, is what this means. Again, you can add more prizes as you go, and you can award the prizes here as well. Basically, what that means is after the event's run, you'll be able to come right here. You'll be able to see the leaderboard, the standings. Included groups is basically it shows you every date that a show was run and every class that was run that's a part of this fantasy leaderboard. Team standings will literally show you the team names of the competitors, so you can see who's winning and losing. You can award them prizes that way. I'll tell you where I'm going to announce. We have a big 3-day World of Outlaw show, big event, marquee event. Everybody around the country is aware of it. We're going to spend $15, and we're going to buy a yellow VP Racing Fuels jug, and we're going to have all the A-main starters sign that. That's going to get so many people so excited to try fantasy. I mean, people play fantasy football with no prizes at all in mind. Now we're going to give them some enticement to play. It's going to create a buzz of excitement around your facility. Drivers are going to be campaigning, hey, pick me in fantasy. And we're going to spend $15 and somebody's going to walk away with something that they think is awesome to put in their garage or man cave or whatever. So there's a lot of reasons that this could get people excited. And if you've got a PA announcer who's, hinting at it throughout the course of an evening, hey, get your picks in, or this is where you're at in standings, or whoever this is winning, it's going to create a little bit more excitement for your event. And that's just a good thing for everybody involved. So it's something that we're definitely excited about. And, whatever ideas that you might have for fantasy prizes. I mean, it's just a cool thing, I think, to be a part of, and we're really excited about it. So that's really the process of adding the prizes and awarding the prizes. One other thing that I will tell you about MRP Fantasy is there is actually a bonus for the players, for the competitors, if they have their phone location turned on and they're at your event. So we are helping you to reward the people who support you the most in this fantasy thing. They'll have a better chance to win just because they're at your racetrack. And that's a good thing for you as well. Hey, if you're here, you got a better chance to win. That's pretty neat. And there's some other things that we want to do with that location services in terms of deals or whatever else that we might get into at a later time. But right now, I think we've included it for fantasy, and it's a great first step. Do we have any questions offhand about MRP Fantasy or the fantasy prizes? If you do think of one or you do find one, you can put it in the chat, or you send me an email and I can reply to you individually that way. I'll get you helped out. I'm going to jump into using MRP Live with Westhold and Race Manager. As I said earlier at the beginning of this, if you want to know what it's like with Orbits, Orbits, watch the 5:30 recording. It'll be up on YouTube. I did one last week as well. So I'll, we'll definitely take a look at that if you're an Orbits track. But if you're a Westhold track, we'll go through this process a little bit. I've got an event already set up here, so we don't have to waste time checking in drivers and everything like that. But I got an event set up. So I want to show you the beginning stages of this. The first place that you'll go to get MRP Live. Now, I want you to understand that the MRP Live application is a third application. So MyRacePass, the race management screen, that's what you're looking at. That's web-based. That's where your lineups, results, all that kind of stuff. Race Manager is the live timing and scoring system. That's its own thing. There's a third application that's going to come about to link those two basically databases together. It's called MRP Live. If you have never downloaded it, you have to install it on your machine. Come here to this MRP Live tab in Race Management, and you can download the application right here. It'll basically put a folder in your downloads. You unzip that folder, you take out the .exe, and you install it. There's a Help Center article regarding this at mrphelp.com, or if you are installing it for the first time and you have questions or you're concerned about doing it the right way, give me a call. That's what I'm here for. I can definitely help you through it the first time. But you install that EXE, and it brings you to this application. You should be able to see it. MyRacePass, basically, it's MRP Live is the name of the application. There's a couple of pieces of information that you'll have to put in here. Most of it is just the first time, but I'll kind of show you those things. First off, select the live timing and scoring system that you're going to use. I mean, more than likely, folks aren't going to switch a whole bunch at the racetrack, so more than likely you'll set that one time. Set the IP address of the machine that you're using. Now, if you're using Race Manager, right here, you come into this screen. It's the Setup tab of Race Manager. You can see I'm in demo mode, but if you weren't in demo mode, this wouldn't say demo here. It'd be a different color. But the IP address is listed right here. That's the IP address of that computer. And that's how, basically MRP Live knows inside the network what machine to go to. There's also a port number that's listed here. Port number is important. You're actually going to want to use this port number right here. I get that that's a little confusing because there's a port number 6000 listed right underneath the IP address, but that's not the correct port number. This port number down here, 50,000, is the one you're going to want to use. I won't say that that's 100% all the time going to happen, but like 95% of the time, unless you're doing some crazy scoreboard stuff, you're going to want to use the port number 50,000. That's almost always what it is all the time. So you've got IP, port number, you've got the right application selected. Now comes the MRP Live code. If you're back in the race management application, back in this MRP Live tab, that's the code. Every unique event has its own unique code. Copy and paste this code right into here. Now, Race Management is connected via this code to Race Manager, your live timing and scoring program, via this IP address and port number. That's the information you need. There's an assignments path here. I don't see a big reason for that to change. Basically, it's the default place on your machine locally that we save the lineups to when you send lineups. Unless you want to have a new place for every single event, maybe you'll create new folders and change the path that way. Otherwise, I mean, the default path works pretty well. There's one other piece of advice that I'll give you regarding MRP Live. I would have, regardless if you're creating the lineups on that same machine or not, I would have you open the MyRacePass application, the web-based application, the Race Manager, and have it just run in the background of the machine that you're doing live timing on, the transponders, and have MRP Live used on that machine. Reason for that is we don't have to go through any clunky network stuff, trying to get through a local area network or something like that to be able to share the information directly online. That way it's all on the same machine, all via the same IP. We don't have to go outside that machine in the network. Makes it a lot easier, faster, and more efficient, and just really removes the opportunity for error in network. And we're not network technicians here. So, I mean, if that happens, we're all going to be scratching our heads. Better to do it on one machine. So once you've got the IP address, the port, and the code, you connect. Perfect, we're right there. There's already some stuff in here because I did a training at 5:30 regarding this using the same event. So this will be empty for you the first time you use it, unless you're doing 2 events in the same day like I did. So we'll jump over here to our to our lineups. I've got a group of pretend drivers that exist in here just so I can show you the application. I'll calculate the lineups. We'll just use the pill draw. Perfect. As soon as you save, that's what pushes the lineups to be live in the app. You can still go in and edit this. And again, this is not meant to be the race management part of things training, that the different webinars for that. I've got more coming up, so you check the schedule and we can go through that. This is just to show you the MRP Live part of it. So you've got your lineup created. I'm going to get lineups. Okay, now that I've hit get lineups, I'll come over to the assign tab, and there you can see it. MRP stock cars, the competitors list, and the Heat 1 list. So you use competitors for hot laps, makes it pretty easy there. We're not going to do hot laps right now, just in terms of time. So I'll just select Heat 1. I'll jump over to timing. Blue flag when they roll out on the track and when they're getting lined up, so you're not firing off, official laps during that process. You hit start, that's the green flag. Now we're recording times. This is not a race manager training either. I don't work for, Westhold. They have great resources online if you're learning how to do this. But these are some of the simple individual things. The cautions are there. It's easy to do, whatever else. We'll finish the race after 3 laps. And then we'll stop right here. Perfect. MRP stock cars Heat 1. Save. If I come over here, go to results, you can see MRP Stock Cars is showing by default here. Regardless if you click this link or this button that says MRP Live, it'll do the same thing. It'll have you import the most recent race, which for me is that heat race. Perfect. And there are my results. And that's how easy it is. It's really simple. It's really easy. It's really fast. If you run into errors or issues, there's a couple of things that I'll show you right here and kind of explain what causes an issue. If you're not connecting at all, if you're hitting connect and it's giving you an error at that point and you're not able to connect at all, it's probably because your IP address is wrong. It'll sit here, it won't connect. After trying for a long time, it'll give you an error. That's a good indication that your IP address is wrong. If you are able to connect, but it never shows any live timing data, it always says when you go to MRP Live in the app or when you're looking at it here in the MRP Live tab, no matter it's connected, but no matter who's on the track or what you're doing in live timing, it just never shows anything. It's probably because your port number is wrong. That's the other thing to look at here. Port number will allow it to connect, but it'll just never retrieve any data at all. You can see here, it gave me the error right here. Broadcast was not found with the supplied IP address. Okay, so I know my IP address is wrong. Go back and double check it. Put the 0 in there. Now we're able to connect. So that makes it a little bit easier there as well. Again, the port number's wrong. It'll connect, but it won't show you any information. We come back here, and you're able to connect. But when you hit get lineups or send lineups, the transponder computer never receives the lineups or the data. You can't upload it. It never shows an assigned. That's wrong. This happened to me last time. It's probably because you have the wrong application selected. So if I hit orbits, I connect, and I press get lineups, Race Manager will never receive the lineups. So if that's your problem, that you've never received the lineups in Race Manager, it's because you got the wrong application selected more than likely. There also can be a situation where the assignments path here and what Race Manager is looking for is actually two different folders. I've seen that happen before too, where it doesn't get the lineups for that reason. Although that's more rare, and that's largely an automated process anymore. So that's less likely to be an issue, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. And in terms of things that could go wrong, it's pretty simple, it's pretty easy, it's pretty fast. Once you get the initial setup stuff out of the way, I mean, your port number is not going to change, your IP address is not going to change, the platform you're using is not going to change. All you're really ever going to have to worry about is copying and pasting the right MRP live code into the application to make it easier and faster for you and things of that nature. So once you get it the first time, you'll be able to get it every other time after. It's just the first time where you might need a hand. And that's what we're here for. That's what we want to do, is we want to try to help out in those situations. With that, and again, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of you know, the Race Manager application. That's not what we're here for. I will say, I'll show you this though before we do wrap up. Okay, we've done our first race. We did all of that stuff. If I go back to lineups here, okay, now I'm going to calculate the lineups for my A feature. Got the lineups calculated. They're saved. I actually have to come in here and hit get lineups again for the new lineups to come through. So I'll hit get lineups. It says all assignments loaded successfully. Come back to Race Manager, navigate back to the assign tab, and there you see A feature 1 is on top. So now I can go through and I can start and I can time A feature 1. Every time you calculate lineups, new lineups, once you've got them all calculated, you want to press that get lineups button again for the new lineups to come through. Yeah, that's a good point. If you're using a Wi-Fi hotspot, your Wi-Fi provider or your phone provider, AT&T, Verizon, can change. They can have what we call dynamic IPs. They're not static. They don't stay the same. They can change. But that's really the only situation in which you'll have to worry about your IP changing, is if you have something like that where your internet service provider, whether it's a hotspot or your regular ISP, is giving you not static IPs. Finish that. We'll stop that. Perfect. A feature 1. Come back to results. I already had results for the A feature because I already did live timing earlier. There we go. There they are. Perfect. Save is completed. We're good to go. We're ready to go there. There you can put in your DNF or DNS or whatever else. I only have 10 cars. You can kind of see if there's 24 cars. This saves a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of energy to be able to take that data directly from Westhold and put it into MRP Live at the click of 2 buttons, 2 mouse clicks. I mean, your clicking finger won't even get tired using MRP Live. Again, this is some of the more technical and difficult things to get set up for the first time. So when you are setting it up for the first time, if you're a new user, reach out to us if you're having problems. Like, come to us, say, hey, I just want to make sure I get this right because it's the first time. One thing I will say regarding this is the one thing that you can't test in the sandbox. You can do everything else in the sandbox in terms of deciding what kind of lineups you want to use or formats or whatever else. You can't test MRP. You can't connect MRP Live in the sandbox. So it's a really good idea to take advantage of your practice nights, take advantage of your test and tune, throw some transponders on a few cars, hook up that live timing and scoring system, make sure the loops work and make sure everything's working that way, just to get a test right there. Yes, Brian, you would need to create an event on your schedule called test and tune or called practice night to be able to generate that MRP Live code. That code, remember, that I showed you to paste it into the MRP Live application. You do need to have something on your schedule to generate that code, so it's a good idea to do that. Take advantage of your practice night so you can get some testing in with this. That way, if you test on a Thursday, you race on a Friday, you can come back to us and you can say, hey, Thursday night it didn't work. Friday morning, give us a call. What did I do wrong? Walk through this with me. I want to make sure I get it right for race night. It's a good idea to use that test and tune night, that practice night. So this is a little bit shorter than the first session. The first session went all the way to an hour. This one's about at 40 minutes. So we got a little bit of time here for questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions. In terms of how many champions you would have, we did have that question in the chat earlier. It depends on how many classes you have. You can have a champion for each class and an overall champion. Beyond that, any questions you want to throw out in the chat? Any questions you want to shout out and answer? Feel free to unmute yourself here in this situation. Shout those questions out. We'll be happy to go through them if you've got them. If you don't think of one now, but it comes to you later, shoot me an email, austin.lloyd@myracepass.com, or you can throw it to our support box, support@myracepass.com. That way more eyeballs are on it. Yeah, Brian, I would encourage you to add drivers in that situation. Add a couple of drivers in test and tune in the entry screen. Make sure you attach some transponders to those drivers' names and make sure that they're the correct transponder name in the entry screen. And then you can export that list basically and just have it be your competitors list. And make sure that they're dinging that way and that the results are coming back and all of those things. So, yeah, I would definitely encourage you to do that. Set it up like you're setting up a regular show. For sure. This is, of course, recorded, as I mentioned before we started. So if you have some questions or concerns and you want to come back and review the video in the next number of days, it'll be on our YouTube page, youtube.com, search MyRacePass. For the IMCA point average changes, do we need to change anything with the global point schemes for 2021? That's a good question, Rebecca. I don't know if those changed by default or not. I'll have to double check that, honestly. Let me get back to you on that. Shoot me an email to remind me, austin.lloyd@myracepass.com, and that way I can tell you for sure if you actually have to change anything that you've got set as global schemes previously. If you're just selecting the lineups is fine. IMCA doesn't have a passing points lineup, and they're not changing anything for championship points tabulations, and they're not changing anything for pay. They don't decide the pay scale. So no, there wouldn't be any global changes necessary because none of their lineup changes are in a global setting anyway. So no, you won't have to change anything global-wise. They didn't change their point structure or anything like that. Cool. Yeah, I'm glad we come to that conclusion. I appreciate the heck out of everybody tuning in. I know it's difficult. I know a lot of you got kids, got families, got other things you could be doing on a weeknight. Could be watching the Wild, but you're not. You're here with me. I appreciate the heck out of it. If you have any questions or concerns, like I said, always feel free to reach out. What are we looking to have shown here? I will do one more thing here. How to favorite the lineups. Perfect. That was in settings and lineup settings. When you go to the entry screen, there's two windows right there. One of them is My Lineups. One of them is All Lineups. If you want something to show in My Lineups, you come here, you place a check mark in this box, you press Save. Now it shows in My Lineups, makes it easier for you to access. Whereas if it's not checked, it's going to go to All Lineups. So it's a good idea to know in advance what your format's going to be, what lineups you're going to want to use. Make sure you've got them checked here. That way they show up easier for you to access on race night. We know how difficult race nights can be in terms of timing. So absolutely. And yeah, you can absolutely change the name of the races as well. For things like heat race sponsors, the name's right here when you go to the races. So we're in race management. We're setting up our races. You know, it'll by default heat race number 1, heat race number 2, B feature, whatever else. If you've got a heat race sponsor, you can change the name of it there. If your terminology is Conzi instead of B main, perfect. And honestly, if you're running a non-qualifiers race, you can just throw in a B main in here. Instead of calling it a B feature, call it non-qualifiers, and then just have no transfers to the A main. Those are some of the things you can do renaming your races as well. Cool. Well, thanks again, everybody. I appreciate the heck out of it. Thank you so much. And again, the WISSOTA code for tonight. So if you're a WISSOTA track, you want to get credit for being here, you have to do something. You have to email me your name, the racetrack that you're with, and golly, I had such a great code last night. I don't know what to do tonight. You know, the wife made me some great pizza before this one, so just pizza. That's the code. Send me the word pizza, send me your name and your racetrack, and that way we can get that put into the spreadsheet to give to Callie to make sure that you have credit for coming here tonight if you're a WISSOTA track. With that, thanks again so much, everybody, for being a part of these deals. We've got a couple more next week coming, Monday and Wednesday next week, and then that'll be that. So I appreciate the heck out of it.